A lot of the things you have to do for your job are boring and repetitive. But one of the fun things about AI is it can take all the information you know about this already and it can let you make it much faster. You just have to know which tools to use and the right way to use them. I'm going to show you how I do that for our newsletter called The Daily Prompt. We will automate mostly the way that we find things to write prompts about and then writing those prompts. And I'll walk you through every step of the process. A quick bit of context on the Daily Prompt. It's a newsletter we send Monday through Friday. We basically take a good prompt, like this right here, and we break down why we like it, the key things that are important for a clear prompt with a good output, and then we show the result. If that sounds interesting to you, there's a link in the description right now. We've written over 100 of these breakdowns, and you can go through all of them. Now we'll get into building the Custom GPT. These are built on top of ChatGPT. You can use them with a free account, but to build them, you need to pay for a Plus account, which is $20 a month. When you build them, you will go into the custom instructions of the GPT, and we're going to define what we want this to do. We're really personalizing what it takes with the input and what it does. We're basically giving it guardrails on how it's going to respond and what context it uses for its response. So the first thing we're going to put in these instructions is this line. It's basically saying a user will give you a job, a task, or anything that they would like prompts for the daily prompt. This is important because we're basically setting up the context of what the use case is for this GPT. The next thing we're going to add is context about this newsletter. So we'll add this little section here that says the daily prompt is a resource for anyone interested in maximizing the use of AI tools. We'll explain what it does by dissecting prompts when it's sent, and this gives the GPT context every single time it's generating prompts, knowing that this is the newsletter that it's writing it for. The next thing that we're going to do is give it more context on what prompts can do. This will be a recurring theme. Context is super important. AI doesn't know who you are, what you're doing this for, so you have to give it more and more information. So underneath the section where we explain that we're explaining prompts, we're giving this long list of everything that a prompt can do. AI is pretty wide-ranging. If you haven't noticed, it can be overwhelming, the amount of things you can do with it. So we're giving this context up front. That way, this GPT knows that it can do all these things. The next thing we're doing, I won't add it in here because it's boring, but I took 4 examples from the daily prompt, and I said these are 4 prompts we've used for the daily prompt as an example of how we write it. If you want AI to do something well, give it an example of doing something well, and it can recreate that. Last but definitely not least, it's the order of operations. Call it whatever you want. It's basically instructions on how to deal with input and what outputs to give. Here we're saying generate 5 creative prompts based on the given job, task, or theme. We're giving it 4 steps based on everything we've put in this already to make sure that it follows the way that we write prompts, the things we wanted to write prompts about. I also added in here, users may ask for a job and a task. If a user asks for a job and a task, follow these steps where it'll generate a job and a task and make it easier to generate more prompts. Once you have all that, you drop it into your custom instructions here on the back end of ChatGPT. You hit update or create. I've already created it, so it's just updating. And you can make it to share with anyone with a link. You can publish to a store. You can make it private. Let's go view this GPT now. And voila, we have a customized version of ChatGPT, but only to create prompts based off of a job and a task. So let's kick it off. I'll show you how it works. I went to Indeed. I found a random job and a task from the job description. Leanne's assistant, keep track of cases and scheduling follow-up calls. I don't even know what that means. So now it's going to give us the job and then some tasks. So here it's going to ask us if we want one of these prompts. Let's just choose number 1 and voila. We have 5 prompts here. For example, track follow-up deadlines, help me set up a timeline tracker for cases with upcoming deadlines, generate an update checklist for recently changed cases, I need an update on cases, yada, yada, yada. These are generated for somebody who's doing this job. I don't do this job, I don't have this information, so it doesn't quite work for me, but it works for the daily prompt where we break down prompts and why they're good. Let's hit it with another job and task. I found another one from just randomly on Indeed. Coordinator of employee and benefits, and then coordinating with internal, external stakeholders. Cool. So it gives us some options here. Let's do number 1, which is stakeholder communication tracking. So we're going to use this chatbot to maintain an organized log of communications. And then it gives us, bam, 5 options that it's spitting out now. For example, summarize the recent communication history for quick reference. And the prompt is generate a summary of my recent communications with specific vendor over the past month, include date of interaction. Present this as a bulleted list to make it easy to review the history at a glance. It's going to need the context of your conversations for something like this. So that is one improvement we can make to this GPT, is add in something that says we don't have historical context for these fake jobs that we're using. Please generate something that doesn't need that historical context. I'll just give you a quick view of how we would do that. So if you click here and go to edit GPT, actually we'll go in here and say, if I want to edit these instructions to not write prompts that require context we don't have, as these aren't our jobs, how would I write that? So I'm actually going to use our tool, the Prompt Perfect Chrome extension, to perfect it. It automatically rewrites this. And I haven't put in any guardrails for saving the instructions from users here. So if you tell it to rewrite the instructions, it will. I'm going to let this write real quick. Great. So this wrote for us this, which I really like. All right, let's go down to the bottom and say order of operations. We're just going to add this in here. Say our primary focus is on generating prompts that do not rely on external context. Self-contained, all necessary instructions within the prompt itself. And if you want that to update, you click update, it'll automatically save it for you. The link to this GPT will be in here. If you want the instructions, just ask the GPT to say, hey, give me your custom instructions. It'll spit it all out. If you found this interesting and you think the daily prompt could be cool, you can subscribe. The link's down below. If you like that Prompt Perfect Chrome extension, I'll put the link down as well. We are trying to show you how we automate things with AI. If you have questions, you can comment. I'll respond to them. Basically, we'll build anything you want if you want to see how it's done. So yeah, we'll see you next time.